Moving countries can be one of the most exciting and most challenging things you'll ever do. And we're here to take one big worry off your plate: your taxes. At Expat Taxes, we understand the complexities of Irish tax from your perspective as an expat and tailor our advice to your needs. With decades of expertise, our team at Expat Taxes will help you navigate tax residency, cross-border taxation, reliefs and returns, and will work with your country's tax advisor to make sure your taxes are sorted. Whether you're an individual or a corporation coming from Australia, the United States, the UK, or anywhere in the world, we want to help you. So visit us at expattaxes.ie to book a consultation today, and let's make moving to Ireland easier together.
Welcome to Tax Bites for Expats, the top tax tips you want to know as an expat. The podcast is here to help answer the common queries and concerns expats have when moving to or from Ireland. Complex taxes explained simply. We'll focus on the Irish and international tax issues to be aware of to ensure you save time, money, and stress.
Hi everyone, welcome to this episode of Tax Bites for Expats. Today we are speaking with Damien Mason of Mason Transport. For those of you who might not be familiar with them, they offer a full door-to-door home relocation service both to and from Ireland, Australia, Canada, New Zealand, the US and Dubai, to name but a few. They've been going since 1996 and their philosophy has always been to provide a high standard and personalised service to their customers. They offer customs clearance, movement of personal effects, air, ocean and road freight and car shipping, to name just a few of the offerings they have. As you can imagine, Damien is somebody who works with people who are moving to and from Ireland frequently, and we really want to have a chat with him so we can understand and potentially debunk some of the myths that people come across in their research phase of planning their move. Damien, thank you so much for joining us. It's really, really nice to have you on the podcast.
Hi Stephanie, how are you?
Yeah, I'm not too bad. It's Friday, so it's always nice to record on a Friday and it's great to have you on.
Absolutely.
So Damien, for those who are listening who may not have heard of you, because I know a lot of people will have, you're very highly spoken of in the expat community or for people coming to and from Ireland. Tell us a little bit about Mason Transport, and I'd love to hear a little bit specifically about you and what drew you to what I imagine is very interesting work.
Very interesting. Well, I started this back in 95. I worked for a manufacturing company and I just wanted to drive, basically just get out on the road and drive. So I had a good boss. He gave me a loan of a couple of €1,000 and I bought a van and I just started doing deliveries for different companies. And then after not so long, I just built it from there, just, advertising and delivering door to door and, around Ireland. And that's where it started. So I just kind of built it from there then, got another van, sold the 2 vans, got a truck. And then eventually, just before I knew it, I had like 12 trucks and we were flying, But
no looking back.
And now looking back. So the Australian part, we just came by chance years ago, and we shipped some stuff by air freighter. If I remember right, it was to Dubai, and it went kind of smoothly. And I thought this is something that we're well able to do, Yeah, that was it really, and we just started advertising.
Yeah, and so 28 years in business, is that right? Or
28 years, showing me age now.
Oh, look, experience. So I suppose, look, there's loads of things we could talk about, and to some extent we want to kind of, I suppose, lend the discussion to the people who maybe are in the middle or about to embark on a move. And I'm conscious that you probably deal with people from numerous locations. One of the things that comes up, particularly I suppose for people who are maybe coming to Ireland from the UK or from Australia or from locations where they drive on the same side of the road of us, would be the importation of a car into Ireland. Talk us through that process, what it looks like. And I suppose specifically with reference to the fact that Ireland's one of the few places in the world that has a vehicle registration tax like we do. So people won't be familiar with that and the things they need to navigate.
Yeah, so if you're bringing a car into the country, say Australia, you've got to own that car for a minimum of 6 months before you ship the car. And once you have your registration certificate, your insurance, proof of insurance and proof of purchase, and they're all in your own name, dated over 6 months, you're moving home on a permanent basis, then you'd be entitled to VRT exemption for that vehicle.
And just to kind of frame that for anybody who's listening to this, VRT is a tax that's applied to the market value of the car as determined by the revenue commissioners.
That's right, yeah.
It's a very high percentage. I'm not familiar with the exact percentage, but I think it's normally in around the 20% mark, isn't it, generally?
And it's big money. If you have an expensive car, it can be very expensive. Plus, you'll pay your 23% VAT on your import and 10% duty. So you're going to pay VAT, duty, then you're going to have VRT when you go to re-register your vehicle.
Yeah, very expensive.
Yeah, so it's worth, like, if you have a car, wait that extra couple of months before you head home, rather than trying to get it home and you only over 3 or 4 months,
And the paperwork that you referenced there, so that's the paperwork someone needs to have on file so that when they bring the car into the country, they're not going to get hit for the VRT. Is there any other conditions when they come back in relation to the car that need to be met so that they don't get hit?
VRT will come on to you. You need to try and get yourself hold of a certificate of conformity, a COC certificate, and it shows the emissions output on your vehicle. And that is very important, because if you don't have that, you will get hit with the high tax bracket on your road tax, your yearly road tax.
Where'd you get that certificate from, Damien?
It's very hard to get it in Australia, and everybody seems to have problems with it. But the main dealer should be able to supply that to you,
Okay.
Yeah, but you could be paying €1,200 tax on a high, engine, big engine, compared to the low. If you had that cert, you'd only pay a few £100.
Wow. Okay. So even when you get back,
Yeah,
having your paperwork in place can mean that once you've got the car to the country, the insurance is lower.
very important. Yeah. So then, if you're moving home, like, there's a lot of paperwork you need to prove that you're moving home. You need to have cessation of employment, so a letter from your boss to say you've worked from 2010 to 2020 and you're now moving home. You need to prove that you've sold your house, so your lease is up, some utility bills, bank statements. These are the things they look for, like, to get your VRT exemption. You've got to prove you've been living abroad and you're moving home on a permanent basis.
Okay. And this is all paperwork. At what point is this paperwork presented or required?
Well, we ask you for that probably 2 weeks, maybe 2 or 3 weeks before the container, say, it comes in, the container arrives into Dublin. We would request all this. We give you a list of paperwork. You send us on the paperwork. We complete the application and get it presented to customs. And then if they want anything, we just come back.
To try and get it across the board. I think as well there's a requirement to retain the VRT exemption, that you must hold on to the car for a period of time after you come back to Ireland. It's 12 months as far as I know. Is that right? 12
months. You can't sell that car. 12 months you have to have it in the country, and you can't sell it within that 12 months.
Yeah.
Now, if you moved home, you can bring another car home within 12 months of you moving to Ireland. So you can go and, if you have 3, 4 cars in Australia and you have the right paperwork for that, the purchase, the registration and the insurance, you're entitled to bring them 4 cars in under VRT exemption.
Any motor enthusiasts listening to that are probably rubbing their hands together in glee, considering the second-hand car market in Ireland is expensive at the moment.
Yeah, we've had a motorbike, a guy collected motorbikes before. Like, he probably had about 20 motorbikes. But he's entitled to bring them in under VRT and get his VRT exemption on, because they're his property,
Yeah.
And he had all the backup paperwork.
So the value there as well, I think, is, having you guys be able to even just list out that paperwork. There's 3 or 4 things there that people are able to go and ask and get. And so your service would extend to the shipping of the car and getting the car, I suppose, on the ground in Ireland as needed.
Absolutely. We get it cleared, and then we bring it to your house, so we unload it at the depot. And that's it. Then you deal with the VRT office yourself for your registration. The other thing I'd say to you is, like I said, within 12 months, you've got to have all even your household furniture. They'll tax you on that after 12 months if you don't get it in on time. So you could have all desks and chairs and sofas, but you bring that in and it goes over your 12 months, you'll pay VAT and duty on it. So you kind of get hit with, you've paid it already, your taxes already, and then you're going to pay them again. So, yeah.
It's an area that really needs to be kind of thought through. In terms of, I suppose, for people who are not coming back from Australia, exactly what you just said applies to somebody coming from the UK. Is that right?
Same thing, because the UK is not in the EU anymore, so you might as well be coming back from Australia than the UK. It's the same rules.
Okay.
We don't do a lot of them from the UK, to be honest. We kind of focus more on Canada, Australia, the US. We do a majority of stuff from,
Mm-hmm. Talk me through from the first phone call. Let's focus on a client in the US or Canada who's planning to come back. What's the process if they get in contact with you guys or with any relocation provider for that matter?
Yeah, so normally somebody would get contact with us. They'd ask us, so people haven't a clue half the time. Like they'd be like, this is the first time I haven't a clue. I need advice, and so there's different options. You could say that the most expensive option is to have a crew go in and pack up all your belongings. They go into your kitchen, they pack all your delf. That's the most expensive part. Then they take it away and they load it on a container and ship it over. Then our guys on this side would do the same, bring it to your house, unload into your residence and unpack for you. But that it can be very expensive. So we give most people the option to load the container themselves. So we could drop a container to your residence, put a 20-foot container, 40-foot, and you load it yourself. And we just ship it back over here. We bring it to your residence, and you unload it yourself, and it can be half the price. And it's not brain science, to do a job like that. Anyone can load it.
Okay, so you ask a couple of your friends or people who owe you a favour.
Exactly. Yeah.
In terms of getting it through, then, so what kind of paperwork are people giving you then? If let's say that person goes, yeah, can't really afford maybe to get someone to kind of come in and pack myself. I'll load it and then I'll see it the other side at wherever I want it in Ireland. What paperwork are they giving you so you can clear it?
So they just got to give us an inventory. So just keep a list of everything you're putting in it. You send us the inventory along with all the backup paperwork that we need for any shipment, which, the proof of residency in Ireland and proof of end of employment in Australia or Canada. It's the same really. You're just loading it yourself,
And what in turn? Okay, so if I go, I'm thinking that you're standing there, you're writing your inventory. What are you not meant to bring in? This is important.
Okay, so alcohol. There's one thing, alcohol. There's a limit to the alcohol, and it's more or less, if you're coming off the airplane, you can only bring a small amount in. So that's all you can bring in. A lot of people have their cabinets full of, half open bottles, and so you have to be careful, because if you bring in too much alcohol, you get taxed on it. We had a lady there coming from Canada. She had the cheap Canadian wine, 6 boxes she put on her list. We never noticed at the time, but when it came in, the customs pulled it to had to do an import declaration for it, and the cost of the VAT and the duty, and for us to do the declaration, which was a few quid, was more than what the bottles of wine was worth. Which
we had it the other way when we were in Australia. Friends of ours came out from Ireland. Now, obviously, bear in mind, Australian Border Force are a different animal, I would say, compared to the Irish one.
Yes, absolutely.
But they mistakenly put a couple of bottles of whiskey, Paddy whiskey, into their boxes going out to Australia, and I think it delayed them actually getting their container delivered for about something ridiculous like 6 weeks. There was impounded or something went terribly wrong. So just little things to be aware of there. Be careful what you're kind of... Even
sending stuff to Australia, people moving to Australia, they highlight on their lists outdoor stuff or Christmas decorations. If you have a Christmas tree, they'll pull it to see is there acorns in it. And if there's acorns in it, they'll want to dispose of them or they want to analyse them. But there's one woman, she had one acorn, I think they wanted a few $100s and it was false, she said. She convinced it was false, they wanted a few $100s to analyse it,
So maybe this is part of the process, but one thing that I know we did when we were coming back from Australia, and this is a shameless plug, but we're not getting paid for it. We used you guys and you were fantastic, and from beginning to end it was really, really good with the container we brought back. But what we did was, you have an inventory list, but you cross-reference it to a box number. So on your inventory list, box 1 contains X, Y, and Z. And the reason is, at least then if it does get pulled, you know what boxes are being pulled out, because our friend... Now, I know this is probably unlikely, and actually you're a better place to answer that. How frequently do things get stopped? Because that's the next question people will have is, okay, this sounds like...
Yeah, it's kind of the luck of the draw, If the paperwork's in order, customs will be happy with it. They'll just clear it.
Right, yeah.
So if you have, work tools on your inventory, if you're bringing in work tools, you can bring in garden tools. You can bring in the normal household tools that we all have, the little sanders and the drill. But anything work related, the big toolbox, you have to pay VAT and duty on them when the import. They'll pull the container if that's on your list.
Wow.
So you have to pay VAT and duty on it. And they don't really stop them once in a blue moon we get, we probably have one stopped for a check,
What's the demarcation between these are tools for my shed? Because I like to go out and kind of, is there any guidance there, like in terms of?
Well, your shed tools, like, you've got your normal shed tools, your rakes and your forks and you can bring in ride-on lawnmowers, you can bring in normal lawnmowers, you can bring in jet skis, quads. Once you've owned all them over 6 months, but it's work tools, you have the big tool boxes, the tool chests and
tradespeople.
all the trade stuff. That's, if it's on your list, you're going to be taxed on it.
Okay. Yeah. So that's really good information. Do you find then, what do people do generally? Do they sell some stuff? Do they bring it back? What?
Yeah, some people do. Some people ship in the tools. But yeah, people do pay tax on the tools. Like,
Yeah. It's just something to be aware of, isn't it? When you're kind of sussing it out.
Tools of the trade, that's what they call it.
What advice do you give to people, Damien, who, and I know it's obviously going to be specific if you're working with individual people, but like if people are listening to this and they're thinking of sending a container back, what would you say to them in terms of advice? Often it comes, should I bring, one of the questions we see, like, should I bring my furniture back? Obviously you can't answer that, but what advice do you give people?
Some people do. Like furniture, you have to think, especially coming from the States, the houses here are much smaller. Like there was one house in particular in Dublin, we delivered a load to, and our house was a 2 or 3 bedroom house, but it was a terraced house. And she brought back, I was there on that job that day, I went with the lads, but you couldn't move in the house, like there was nowhere to put stuff. But she insisted the stuff went in. And I don't know what she's doing with it in the end, like, but it was absolutely way too much. Like, the sofas are too big for for the rooms here, and they obviously didn't look at that. You got to think, like, how big is your house going to be? What kind of sofa am I bringing back? Do I need this? Do I need that? Some of that stuff you could buy here again, rather than paying shipping,
Yeah.
And don't forget then, if you're bringing big furniture, you might only need a 20-foot container, but I've got two suites of furniture that I wanted to bring home. That's going to run you into a 40-foot container. So is it worth paying the extra couple of grand for when you can, you could probably buy a suite here, be cheaper and just take a 20 home.
Can people share containers?
They do. We do the consolidated containers all the time. Like 2 people, there's nothing wrong with you wanting to ship home, but look, I've only got half a load. I don't have that much, but my friend up the road wants to move home too. You two go together and split the costs. So the price of that would be much the same as you doing it on your own, The other one is that we do shared containers. We do them a lot actually, and if you have 2 or 3 suitcases, we can take them on board, like
extras, ones you're not bringing on your flight.
Yeah, 2 suitcases we only charge €250 to depot. So I know where competitors are charging €650, or €450.
So sorry, €250 from Australia to Ireland?
From Australia into Ireland. So,
Wow.
you drop them at the depot and we take them over to our place and we charge $250 for that.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Which is nothing really compared to competitors,
Compared to what an airline would charge you, it's nothing. So I have all my favourite dresses and my grandmother's favourite brooch in my suitcase.
Yeah.
How long do I have to wait before it gets to me?
Oh yeah, most containers, whether they're shared or not, take average 8 to 10 weeks. We say sometimes they can run to 12. It depends on the situation and if they're busy in Singapore, you might not make that vessel and it gets held up to the next one, or same in Rotterdam on the feeder vessel, will be waiting for it to come over. But 12 weeks is kind of worst case. Yeah, I say 8 to 10 weeks.
I remember when we were waiting for our container and I think we had we had the name of the ship it was on, and we could actually track where the stuff was. So once you get here, you're going to have some indication, for somebody who's maybe going into a rental. And I suppose, people coming back to Ireland from Ireland aren't going to be shocked to hear this, but, in Ireland, a lot of rentals are furnished. Some people listening might not know that. So there's not always a need to actually bring a lot of furniture with you if you're planning to rent when you get here. In terms of looking at, I suppose the things that are listed on your website then as well, in terms of like the main things that you do, it's basically an end-to-end service, isn't it? If people want to pick up their life and move it, what they really need to do is contact you guys to get advice from the very start to the very end. Do you know what I mean? Like, how do I get my car into the country?
Yeah.
What do I pack? It's the whole thing.
Yeah. Well, see, we can do, like I said to you, we can do the whole pack up. If you've got a car or you've got, all your furniture, we can do the full pack up for you. That's not a problem. But I always give people the option to self-load and save themselves a lot of money,
Is there, just as a side question, how does the insurance and all that work? Is that part of the service?
So yeah, there's another myth on Facebook I often see on the pages. So what happens there? Insurance, you can be insured if you self-load the container. You can still get cover, all risk cover. We can get you covered on it. Some companies are saying you can't. We can't cover you. Maybe they can't cover you, but we can get you cover. There's 3 different options on the insurance cover, depending on what exactly. But you're better off just with the all risk, to be honest with you. Probably pay about 2% or 2.5% of the total value of your goods. You just give a good inventory, and we send that to the insurance company, and we get a quote done up, and that's it. Then we definitely 100% you can be covered, all risk. Cars can be insured, self-loaded cars, you can still get insurance. We just need photographs of the car before you ship it.
And literally shipped from the point it gets to the port in Australia till when it gets to your...
Till it gets into our depot, yeah.
Yeah, okay. And just so people know, where is your depot?
We're based in Ashbourne in County Meath, so it's just outside Dublin.
So if somebody doesn't have it delivered direct to their door, they can save a few bob by driving up.
Save us a few £100 on a delivery to the country. If you have your car, you want it in Galway, probably going to cost you £300. Just come up, get a lift up and drive it home.
If people are, because I'm just thinking, in terms of like saving money or being sensible generally, if people are packing containers, like, is there any guidance you give them in terms of like things to do to prevent damage in transit, or, what are the general things you say to people when they're loading?
Yeah, generally just box your stuff well, pack boxes, just, put plenty of bubble wrap around your TVs and just pack the container tight then, Don't be leaving gaps everywhere where it's going to tilt or fall, And then you just get a few straps.
I remember when we were leaving Perth, I distinctly remember my son, who was like, he was 2.5 at the time, watching Brian my husband pack the car we were bringing back, and literally shoving duvets and things into it. So there was actually like the amount of stuff you could put into the car before you put it onto the container, and therefore it's going to be in the car while it's on the high seas. So when it got to us, it was perfect because so anything that needs to be kind of protected or, might be likely to get damaged in cold or damp.
Most people, when you're packing a house with a car, all the goods, the personal effects would get loaded in first to a certain extent, say halfway. And then you would get the ratchet straps and a couple of sheets of ply and use that as a wall, ratchet strap up. So that's, and even on our website, we put up, on our Facebook, we put up some jobs, and you'd see where, there's a lot of wood there holding all that up together. And then the car gets drove in then and strap the car down, and that's it then. The containers don't really get thrown around when you think about it. Like, it's a crane, it's going to lift it, it's going to put it on the stack, it's going to, take it off the stack, put it on the ship. So it's not like it's getting thrown around,
Yeah, the people walking around the ship might feel the swell, but nothing in the actual container will.
Yeah, on the road maybe, the trucks driving around corners and all, that's different, you're going to have some movement, obviously.
Tell us this actually, because we're talking very much in the context of ships. You guys advertise air freight. Like, how frequently is that done? I would imagine that's obviously in a different cost bracket, but that's just an assumption.
Yeah, air freight is crazy money. Like, we do some, we don't do a lot of it. We used to do a lot of it, but it's very expensive.
Yeah.
The last one I remember there, probably last week from the States, the lady paid thousands to get a couple of cubic meters or whatever it was at the time. I'm not sure. But it's very expensive. You really want that in a hurry, to pay those costs.
I don't think this is a service you offer, but I'm going to ask just in case you have somebody who you recommend. What if you want to bring your family pet with you? Do you guys do any of that, or?
We don't do pet transport, but there are companies that do it. We always recommend a company in Perth. I think it's All Care Pet Transport, and they're very good apparently. And people, there's a few. I know there's 2 or 3 people talk about, and
Yeah.
you know yourself, recommendations is the way to go. So, if someone does a good job for you, you recommend them, you go with it,
Yeah. And I think that's the piece here is that when people pick up the phone to ring you, they've made a decision, like they're going.
Yeah.
And the next bit and how it goes really matters because when you get to Ireland, if someone tells you, oh, such and such has happened or something's gone missing or whatever it is, like that's you're kind of in trouble at that stage. So having a reliable service is or even people to pick up the phone and ask questions of is really important, I would say.
It is absolutely. And you know what? I get calls. I've got a call there. Yeah, it was this morning actually. His son is moving home to Australia, but he's insisting. I haven't quoted him, I haven't done anything, but he said, "Well, we're going with you guys, no matter what." So because of all the reviews and people recommending, and he's just adamant. His son said, "No, Dad, I'm going with these guys," and that's it. So things like that is brilliant. Like I just, and then you hear all different people's different stories when they're moving home, which I love hearing all the different, reasons and stories, and you have a bit of crack and talking to people, and yeah, brilliant.
It's a great area to work in, and I think probably like ourselves, you've probably met some interesting people and interesting stories along the way.
I have, yeah, absolutely.
What we'll do is we will drop obviously all your details into the show notes so people can reach out to you. And what's the best way for people to contact you, Damien, if they have questions or they're not sure if they need your service or?
So questions, they can just pop an email. You can there's loads of different ways you can contact us. WhatsApp, you can contact us, email info@masontransport.com, Facebook. There's various different ways. So
I think as well, if people let you know that they've listened to you on here and heard you on the podcast, I'm sure you'll give them 5-star treatment. They'll get 6-star.
They get the Stephanie discount.
Thank you so much for coming on with us. Look, I think we could probably talk all day, and I know even just around the whole topic of cars, it's just such an area of interest for people. And I think some of it's just around kind of debunking the myths that are out there. Well-meaning people, sometimes false information can sometimes be spread.
The other thing to remember as well is we sponsor the likes of Central Coast GAA with the jerseys. Okay. And there's a few different in Perth. We sponsor a mother and baby group, and there's another guy is drift car, and he's out there driving around with a name on it.
Right.
So we kind of, we're doing this a long, long time. Like I say, 1996, we're working with the Irish abroad, and we just keep. That's what we do, and we look after people like that. You want, not saying I'm going to sponsor everybody. But,
you're going to get a lot of requests from mother and baby groups after this.
Yeah, well, Perth, we do a mother and baby group. Perth, we do the Central Coast GAA. We do some jerseys there, and it's great to see the name and they're all running around the fields.
Isn't it just?
Yeah, everyone loves GAA.
Don't they? Definitely. Okay, well, on that note, thank you so much for coming on and talking to us. It's been really, really useful. And yeah, look, I'm sure people will listen to this for a long time to come, but if people have other topics they'd like us to talk about, they can drop us a note and we could always record another session if there's areas that people would like us to touch on that we haven't got to today.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Damien.
Thanks for listening to Tax Bites for Expats. Please do leave a rating or review wherever you listen to your podcast. And as always, remember to take professional tax advice specific to your personal circumstances before acting or refraining from action in connection with the matters dealt with in this series. The material in this podcast is intended to give general guidance only.